Hello everyone. In this lecture you are going to learn how to create tables in your web pages. It's really easy concept, so it will just take 10 or 15 minutes to cover the whole concept. So we are going to I'm going to cover both lecture and lab practice in a single video. Okay, so tables, like we will need tables to organize the information. Okay, so like a spreadsheet, when we need to organize the information like row with a row and column, then we may need to use table concept. Okay, so let's look at the syntax tags that will be useful for us to create tables in our web pages. So table is the tag that will wrap up all the information which needs to be displayed in tabular format. So if you look at this table, all the information, all the single information should be wrapped up starting from here to here. All the tags, all the information should be wrapped up with this opening table tag and closing table tag. Okay, just like other tags. And then TR tag will cover all the cells in the row. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, right? So we need to have 4 TR tags. Okay, so the TR tag for this, the TR tag will start here and it will close here. Okay, similarly we will use 4 TR tags for each row. So table row, TR means table row. And the next tag is called TD tag. So TD tag is for cell. Okay, table cell information. Each cell will be wrapped up with TD tag. So you can see that we have 24 cells in this small table. So we will use 24 TD tags covering each content with TD, opening and closing TD tag. Okay, and then TH tag will be useful for us to display the header information. So you can see that in this table the CSS property, Internet Explorer, all those things are called headers. Okay, so all these cells, instead of using TD tag, here we will use TH tag because these cells are headers. Okay, so each TD will be replaced with TH tag when the particular cell is a header. And then caption tag will help us to configure a description about the table. Normally it will appear in the top of the table like that. Okay, so that is the caption tag. So these are the basic 5 tags that we'll be using to form a table. Okay, so this is how it will look like. So you can see table, everything will be wrapped up with table, opening table tag and closing table tag. Whatever you specify after this closing table tag, that will not get formatted as a table. Okay, so it should be wrapped up within the opening and closing table tag. And the row, each row should be wrapped up with opening and closing TR tag. And each cell like this should be wrapped up with TD and TD tag. Okay, so this is the caption. Okay, so border, you might have noticed this, it has a border attribute. So the border attribute will give some specific border. If you specify the border attribute as 0, then no border will appear, or even if you are not using any border attribute, then the border will not appear. Okay, so to make the border visible, you have to use different values from 1 to 2. Different values are there. You can give a try on different border values. So the 1 would appear like this. Okay, and then call span and row span, what are they? So call span and row spans are used for merging the column or row. You can look at this table where we are the first header table, we are row, we are just merging the 2 columns into single column as a caption. Okay, so here we have used call span attribute. So you can look at this. When it comes to column, always will use TD tag for the column, right? So inside the TD tag you have to use the attribute called call span, and then you have to specify how many columns that you are going to merge. Okay, so here we are going to merge 2 columns, so we are using 2. Then it will merge the 2 columns and then it will display that as a single column. Okay, so this is about call span. Similarly we can do the row span. In the row span, we will use row span still in TD only. Okay, but you can look at this. Here we will have 2 TR tag. The reason is the second column is going to have 2 rows. So we have to use TR tag but in TD tag of the which column that you're going to combine, which two rows you're going to combine. In that row you have to specify single TD instead of two TD. You can see normally when we have two TR tag and with two column, there will be two TDs, right? So you have to ignore the second TD. That means we are not going to have this cell, so we will specify only this TD. And then here, instead of specifying call span, since we are combining the row span, we have to say row span and then how many rows that we are combining. Here we are combining, we are merging two rows, so the row span value is TD. Okay, so the thing that you have to notice here is whether it is call span or row span, always it should be used with the TD tag. Okay, so you have, for the row span you are not using it with TR tag. Always you are using TD tag, okay, to specify the call span and row span. Okay, so we will practice it, then it will be clear for you. Okay, then accessibility criteria, always like to improve the accessibility for someone who cannot read the table or who is using some readers to read the content. To make it accessible to them, you have to always use a proper caption and the heading TH tag. So if you're using a heading, try to see, for example, here you're using heading, right? So name, birthday, phone. So instead of using TD tag, if you use TH tag, then it is one accessibility criteria, because the browser will understand that it is a header. So it can communicate with the reader. Okay. Similarly, caption will be helpful to describe what is the table is about. So use the proper TH and caption tag to bring in the accessibility criteria. Okay. So then we can look at the CSS properties that is assigned with the table. So you can see you can use the padding, border, text align, content align, and the width, background color, all those things whatever we have learned so far, which is appropriate to apply on the table, you can apply all those things. There is no specific CSS property assigned with the table, but whatever you learn, you can give a try, like text align, padding, okay, centering the content, width, specifying the width, changing the background color. The only thing is you cannot use the background image for the table. Okay, other than that you can just give a try on all the CSS property. We are going to try it in our lab practice. I'm going to show you what are the things that you can do, okay, in the lab practice video. So the next thing that you need to understand, a very important property of table is the pseudo class. So you are familiar with the pseudo class concept because we used it in our navigation pseudo class, where we changed to like hovering over. When we hover over the navigation, it changed the colors, visited, and then link, how all those things have the effect on the navigation. So the same thing that we can, same pseudo class concept can be applied on table. Okay, whenever you use colon with some tag, then it will be referred as pseudo class. Okay, so like navigation, table also has some pseudo class. So these are the pseudo classes. So first of type, it represents the applies to any element, first of an element of any specified type, but here in table it represents the header, okay, the first row. And first child applies to the first child of an element. If it is a table, the first row of the table will be represented as a first child, and last child is the last row of the element, will be referred as the last child. If you represent it in a particular row, then the first child will represent the first TD cell and the last child will represent the last TD cell. Okay, and then first of type, last of type, nth of type, all the different things are there. It may be confusing to you. Maybe I'll explain this with this. Do you see TR, nth of type, odd? So you can say n or n represent odd or even. So when you specify this, then here if you specify odd, then the odd number of rows like 1, 3, 5 will carry. For example, here you can see that the background color will be applied on all the odd number of rows. So that means 1, 3, 5, all the odd number of rows will get this color value. Okay, so if you say even, so I'm going to change to even, okay, so save it and refresh it. You can see here, if you say even, save it and refresh the page, then you can see all the even number of rows will get the color. Okay, so this is how we can use this pseudo class property to bring in some styles to our table. Okay, so nth of type n, that is odd or even. Okay, so these are the things that you need to know on table. Okay, in the next video I'll apply what are the things that I explained here. We'll apply it in a lab practice project. Okay, see you in the next video.